morning, ladies, from Network She in the Mothership. It's Ruth, and part of Wellbeing Wednesday, I thought I would pop on and speak to you all a little bit about overwhelm. So what do I mean when I say overwhelm? Well, I'll probably get to that in a minute, but I suppose some of you will know me from having been part of Network She, helping with other social media training and running the essentials courses and things. So lots of people know me for that kind of side of life, but I'm also a lecturer in coaching and mentoring, but I'm a supervisor for other coaches, and I obviously do life coaching and business coaching myself. And the reason I was chatting to Ruth last night about this thing around overwhelm is because so many clients at the moment, and also some of my coaches that are coming to me for supervision, are all talking about clients being overwhelmed and us all being overwhelmed. And I just want to take even 5 minutes just to maybe help a little bit with that idea about being overwhelmed. You know, it's really difficult times at the moment. We're stuck in the middle of something that nobody expected, no one's prepared for, and frankly, who knows what the best way to deal with it is. And that's had massive impacts for lots of people. There's people that haven't been able to work, people that have been furloughed, people whose businesses haven't been able to open, people who are having to look after the children at home when the schools are closed, and suddenly find themselves working at home with all of the family still at home, and the partners at home, and the kids are at home, and there's massive amounts of intrusion on our normal time. For a lot of people, that leads to quite a bit of overwhelm. But the other part of it as well is this idea around other people's expectations and our expectations of ourselves. And it makes me quite sad, actually, when I'm talking to people about, and I'm a victim of it as well, when you're talking to people about, you know, what they haven't done and what they haven't achieved, and the fact that they're watching everybody else and judging themselves by everybody else's standards, and it's getting worse and worse. And whilst ironically you wouldn't expect me to say this, but part of that is also driven by what we're reading and what we're seeing, and people's perfect lives, and you know, the idea that people put across on social media, as well as, you know, in other places. You know, your best mates learned how to bake soda bread, and, you know, or making jam, or they've learned a new language, or whatever it might be, and you haven't got round to doing that. And that feels quite difficult sometimes, and people are quite difficult on themselves, and we're quite negative in the way that we speak to ourselves. And that's leading to people feeling overwhelmed, or they can't think clearly, and their minds are all over the place, and they feel they're not getting anywhere. So I suppose my point, I suppose what I'm trying to say in this point is that it's all right not to have done all that stuff. It's okay to have just done what you can. And it's okay to be really proud of just doing what you can. And, you know, my other bit of advice to you would be to stay in your own lane. Stay in your own lane. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing, about the 50,000 things that they're seeming to be able to get done. You know, don't worry about the fact that you haven't done something that somebody else has done, that you can't bake bread, that you haven't learned a second language, that, you know, buying a gazillion books and not getting around to reading them, or they're logging on to 1,000 different online courses and they can't necessarily get them finished. There's lots of people out there that are trying to capitalize on this time at the moment, and that's good, but there's also a danger for that to feel as though if you're not doing those things, then you're not achieving stuff. Well, you are achieving. You are doing your very best in difficult circumstances. You are looking after yourself and your home and your children and your family and your business. You're doing enough, and you're doing it really, really well, because you're doing it the best way you know how in the current circumstances. And there's little things that advice will, this sound really daft, but small things like, if you're brushing your teeth in the morning, for as long as you're brushing your teeth, tell yourself all the things that you're really proud of, that you managed, that you've achieved. Remind yourself of the good parts about you and your personality. You know, what a good friend you are, how helpful you are for people, how proud you are of where you've come in the last few months. Yeah. So as long as it takes you to brush your teeth, you should be able to name all those things about yourself. Simple things like, don't brush your teeth in the morning. That sounds really weird. Go and have a look out of a window and brush your teeth whilst taking in a lovely bit of scenery, if you're fortunate enough to have it outside your house. Change your routine a bit and look after yourself a little bit more. That idea of kindness that you are providing for everybody else, but are you being kind to yourself? Are you having kind conversations with yourself? Are you constantly berating yourself for the stuff you've not done? Are you busy every morning writing a massive to-do list and then thinking in the afternoon, I've got none of that done? Try not to do that. Maybe only put a few things on that list, or actually even more brave, get rid of that list altogether and change it to the end of the day and write all the things that you have done, because you'll have done loads of really good stuff. It's just that we focus on the stuff we haven't done. So that idea of a mindset where you really think about your day and reflect on it and think, yeah, I've done really well today. I've done really well. I've got through another day. I've done this, and this. And that other stuff isn't important and it can wait till tomorrow. I've sat down, had a conversation with someone I've not spoken to for ages, or I've taken myself out for a walk and just breathing a bit of fresh air. Things that you have done. So focus on the achievements that you have done rather than the stuff that you haven't. Another part of overwhelm is it does stop you thinking clearly because you've got too much stuff going on. And I suppose for me, one of those things is around kind of almost like speaking to yourself. If you were a child, if your child came home from school and said, I'm not as good as the girl that sits next to me, and I'm not brilliant at what she does, and she's better at art than me, or your son came home and said, my mate plays football better than I do and I can't score a goal, you wouldn't sit them down in the corner and tell them how crap they are and how they need to try harder. You'd give them love and you'd give them compassion and you'd be empathic, because that's the kind of person that you are. But yet we don't reserve those same things for ourselves. I know it sounds a bit preachy, but it's that idea of looking after ourselves with a little bit of self-care, a bit of empathy, a bit of compassion, taking the pressure off ourselves, and just realizing how brilliant you are as a person and how much you have done well and how much you're doing well every single day. So focusing on that really, really good stuff rather than the 3 things on the list you didn't get round to. And one of the things that some people find these really useful, so the planners that everybody buys with the goals they're going to do for today and the massive to-do lists and all that kind of stuff. People think they have to have one of those in some cases. They kind of feel like, oh, that'll make me organised. But, sometimes you're not the kind of person that likes a plan. Those things don't work. Actually, writing all those things down and then not getting around to be able to do them is reinforcing negative conversations with yourself. You are actually, to all intents and purposes, reinforcing negativity. It's like you've almost borrowed the bully from school and kept it on your shoulder. You've bought the bully off Amazon and you're continuing to talk to it every day. What might be really nice is forget the planner, have a plain piece of paper as a bit of a journal every morning and start the day with how proud you are of yourself and what fantastic achievements you've made to this point, and what you look forward to being able to enjoy in the future. That idea of a mental mindset of kindness, and I know it's really underrated, but definitely for me, kindness needs to make a bit of a comeback. And being kind to everybody else is brilliant, but it's exhausting. And being kind to yourself is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself for today. So that sounds a little bit like a sermon. I'm really sorry. But the amount of people that I'm seeing that are overwhelmed with the expectations that they are putting on themselves is going to lead us into a bit of a mental health crisis. Well, it already has. So I suppose my advice to you would be, without being too somber, is you are ace. You are doing really, really well. You are managing despite all those circumstances. So you have got true resilience and you're an absolute warrior in this whole scenario. So don't talk about the fact that you haven't done something. Talk about all the stuff that you have. And reward yourself for being a brilliant person. And just take 5 or 10 minutes out today just to remind yourself of that. And leave the overwhelm and embrace the stuff that you can do. You don't have to be the same as the Karen down the road or, the other woman in the business group that you see achieving loads. They'll have their own challenges as well. Don't take on anybody else's image as being yours. Just carve out your own. And if that means you want to stay in bed all day and eat Maltesers and watch back-to-back episodes of an 80s sitcom, put that on your planner, because there's nothing wrong with that either. And that was it, really. I hope you all have a brilliant day.